Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini.
Welcome back to the show, my co-host, Dr. Jeff Galini. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good, Carl. How about you?
Good. And you're coming in 5 by 5. There should be no concerns about the audio. You sound fantastic. So we are talking about something. Vitamin D gets a lot of publicity these days. Vitamin A is not even discussed. And to a greater degree, people think they're getting adequate amounts of vitamin A if they're getting beta-carotene in their diet. But vitamin A is equally important as vitamin D is. And years from now, they're going to be treating vitamin A the way they treat vitamin D. So we're going to talk about vitamin A today. When we talk about vitamin A, Dr. Jeff, we're really talking about things like retinol, palmitate, retinoic acid, and those, not beta-carotene, correct?
Correct. That's kind of a pro-vitamin A that we'll talk a little bit about, but we'll kind of define vitamin A. This is kind of the long version from the PDR. Did you know the PDR has dietary supplement books now?
Well, if you go to your doctor, you won't find that out because most of them don't crack that part of the book open.
No, they don't. They actually don't even have them on the shelf. They only keep the physician desk reference for the drugs. But it's kind of interesting. But anyhow, kind of the long version, vitamin A is one of those lost vitamins, even though it's the beginning of the alphabet that I think people forget about. But vitamin A basically refers to a group of fat-soluble substances that are structurally related to and possess the biological activity of the parent substance, which we call all-trans retinol or just retinol. Vitamin A is very, very important. It plays key roles in vision, epithelial differentiation, growth, reproduction, bone development, and brain development. Most people probably know that vitamin A is commonly known as the vitamin needed for good eyesight. So it's really important for promoting good vision. But it also is vital for regulating genes, maintaining healthy skin, supporting the immune system, and producing red blood cells.
So let's get a little deeper into this notion that beta-carotene converts to vitamin A. There's been numerous good studies done now that show that a large portion of the population, perhaps as much as 80%, do not convert beta-carotene into vitamin A. Now, that doesn't mean you should ignore the carotenoids because they are powerful antioxidants, but you must focus on getting real vitamin A. The best way to get that is through your diet, right, Dr. Jeff?
Hello, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me, Dr. Jeff?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. A little technical difficulty. Sorry about that.
But the best place to get vitamin A is really through your diet, right?
It is. That is the best place, and that's why that we really don't have a big vitamin A deficiency in first world countries, because we can get it from such things as eggs, dairy products, fish. Most of our vegetables and fruits contain vitamin A. Our cod liver oils, our livers and things. So it's quite abundant in food.
Now, when we talk about good doses of vitamin A in food, that is based on the assumption that someone is not in a position where their body is being challenged. But there are also therapeutic doses of vitamin A that we see holistic doctors treating patients with. And you mentioned something a second ago about gene transcription. One of the things that people need to understand about vitamin A is this. Stem cells cannot differentiate without adequate vitamin A, real vitamin A, not beta-carotene, but the retinoid form of vitamin A. In fact, stem cell scientists that work in stem cell therapies, in order to differentiate stem cells in a petri dish, they must add vitamin A. Or the stem cell will not pick up the genetic blueprinting of what it should become without adequate amounts of vitamin A. So the way you need to understand that is this. Nature puts stem cells in your body so your body had the ability to repair itself. not so that some doctor could extract them, purify them, and then reinsert them somewhere else, so that your body had a toolkit to go to in the event of some sort of collateral damage, and it could try its best to repair whole organ systems. It cannot do that without adequate amounts of vitamin A. So if you are someone whose body is already compromised, you're dealing with multiple sclerosis or some sort of disease, and you're looking to tick it up a notch and get your body to kick into a gear where it can start to repair from a therapeutic standpoint, you must look at therapeutic doses of vitamin A. Do you have any opinions of therapeutic doses of vitamin A, Dr. Jeff?
Well, yeah. And, we're talking about, vitamin A as kind of a general category. Let's kind of break it down into the three main types. You've got retinol, and then retonic acid, which is the form that is needed for gene regulation. I think when you're getting to therapeutic doses, first of all, it needs to be more controlled. Let's not just go out there because we're talking about vitamin A and start taking massive doses of the supplement vitamin A, because there is some toxicity levels. But, again, from my personal opinion, being that I don't think very many people are deficient unless they have, some ailment or they are in some third world country, the RDA for healthy males is 900 micrograms per day. Usually, converting that to an IU's, getting up into about the 100,000 IU, I think is what most people use as a therapeutic amount. What do you think there, Carl?
Well, are we talking about real, like retinoic acid, retinol palmitate, or are we talking about beta carotene right now?
Well, first of all, beta carotene is kind of a pro-vitamin A because that has to be converted to retinol. And most carnivores and herbivores have trouble converting that to vitamin A that's actually usable. There's been quite a few studies that are now saying that maybe only 50% of that is actually usable. The palmitate is, from what I've seen, probably the most absorbable form.
Right.
If you're talking about, outside of food sources. Okay.
If we're talking about retinol palmitate, I can look at studies that have been used to therapeutically reduce conditions like, for instance, acne vulgaris. This is the type of acne that leaves dark keloid-type scars on teenagers' faces. Before Accutane was invented, which is just a synthetic form of vitamin A that is more toxic to the liver than even vitamin A itself, taking 100,000 IUs of retinol palmitate a day for up to 2 months did not change liver enzyme or hepatic landscape to any great degree. However, it completely ameliorates acne vulgaris without it returning. So there's some residual effect of super concentrating vitamin A in the liver that kind of hangs on, so to speak. It takes up residency and it seems to stay there. So I think 100,000 IUs of vitamin A as a therapeutic dose is not unrealistic. I don't think it's a good idea if you're going to take that every single day as your normal supplement dose. I think that anything in the area of a low of 8,000 IUs a day to a high of 25,000 IUs a day, balanced with a similar amount of vitamin D, is very, very realistic and it shows to be very beneficial to some people.
Absolutely. And, determine first that you are deficient in vitamin A. Again, we talk about a lot of things on this show, but that doesn't mean everyone is deficient in everything. So do a little bit of research on the deficiencies. We'll probably talk later in the show about some of those.
Yeah, and testing and so on.
Yep.
Okay, so we've identified some of the different vitamin A forms, and clearly retinol palmitate seems to be the most readily available in the supplement industry and clearly the best absorbed. We understand its role in stem cell differentiation, which obviously has a part of the reason why it works so well in skin. It's even been used topically, believe it or not, to completely reverse cellulite over a course of a 6-month period.
Yep, it has, and it's been pretty effective.
What other things do you like about vitamin A, Dr. Jeff, from a standpoint of just a nutritional benefit?
I think the first thing that, again, its most benefit thing that we know about is vision. Vision requires vitamin A. It requires that retinol to work. You got to remember, we're looking at objects. Light is reflected from that object and enters into the eye. It strikes a tissue in the back of the eye. That tissue is known as the retina. When light strikes that retina, retinol is converted to retinal, which is then shuttled to little rods. And these cells help you to see in the dark. They help you to see better. So one of the deficiencies in vitamin A is something called night blindness, where basically you have trouble seeing in dark conditions. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to go out and take a whole bunch of vitamin A to fix that, because a lot of times people are light sensitive. But that is one of the important things for vision. We already talked about regulating the genes. But another thing is the support of the immune system. And as you were talking about, the skin and the linings that cover the digestive, respiratory, and urinary tracts are very important components of the immune system. They're kind of our body's first barrier against infection. And retinol, that form of vitamin A, is responsible for maintaining the function of the cells that make up those barriers. So vitamin A is also needed for the formation and activation of white blood cells. So very important for the immune cell. Well, it also helps with red blood cell production.
That's a big one. And that's a big one for athletes, right? Because just this morning I was talking to a good friend of mine who was talking about the erythropoietic effects of some supplements. And I said to him, vitamin A can improve red blood cell production. It has an erythropoietic effect. So if you're an athlete, chances are, if you're a hard training athlete, you can benefit from even a low dose of 8,000 IUs of vitamin A day.
And remember that, what red blood cells do is they're actually carrying oxygen, through the blood. So, very, very important, not only for athletes, but anyone trying to recover from an injury, or even get over the common cold.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to pick it up on the other side. We're talking with Dr. Jeff Galini today. This is Science for Humans. We're talking about a very, very underestimated and forgotten hormone, fat-soluble hormone called vitamin A, and it definitely deserves a place in your supplement regimen. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Freakish muscle gains, Freakmaker Build from AAEFX is a scientifically engineered post-workout formula that combines Protein, whey isolate, whey concentrate, milk isolate, casein, and egg, quality protein sources with carbolin, pre-alkaline, and medium-chain triglycerides, a 2-to-1 carb-to-protein ratio to optimize post-training recovery and repair. Freakmaker Build delivers 58 grams of fast-absorbing carbolin to replenish glycogen stores and 1.5 grams of pre-alkaline pH-buffered creatine monohydrate. Get Freakmaker Build today. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the AAEFX banner ad.
Everyone knows the importance of optimal vitamin D levels for health. Every week, a new study is released showing the linkage to disease from low levels of vitamin D. But throughout evolution, we have never gotten the massive amounts of vitamin D in our diet that we get today. This is why oral vitamin D is associated with toxicity and the risk of calcification of organs. Vitamin D is naturally synthesized in the skin, but dermatologists tell us to stay out of the sun for fear of skin damage. Now you can take your vitamin D the way nature intended it with Primal D. Primal D delivers a topical dose of vitamin D into the skin where it belongs. Topically applied vitamin D does not carry the risks associated with oral vitamin D. And the single bottle of Primal D should last you a year. For less than 19 cents a day, you could be taking the world's best vitamin D supplement. Go to primal-d.com to learn more. Oh, and you don't have to wait to run out of your current vitamin D to order Primal D. You can just throw it away because it just became obsolete. Primal-d.com. Vitamin D delivery the way nature intended it.
Never before has an anti-estrogen been so powerful. The triazole formula is built on a potent all-natural aromatase inhibitor called Pizole, which has been shown in clinical trial to be as effective as a leading prescription aromatase inhibitor. Pizole works in concert with the rest of the triazole formula to control estrogen while simultaneously boosting testosterone significantly. In fact, one of triazole's testers had a 120% increase in total testosterone and a 256% 97% increase in free testosterone. Triazole is available at bodybuilding.com, nutriplanet.com, or where finer supplements are sold. For more information, check out getds.com. AnabolicMinds.com is the premier website for credible information on building muscle, burning fat, supplementation, and more. With over 100,000 active registered members and over 2.5 million posts, it's one of the largest communities on the internet to get help and answers to your questions. It's also the place that the official Superhuman Radio Forum is hosted. Visit AnabolicMinds.com today and get into the action. AnabolicMinds.com. Learn, teach, lead.
For the best in real world, no nonsense, result producing and effective strength training, muscle building, and physical culture information, read Brooks Kubik's books and courses. Don't delay. Sprint on over to BrooksCubic.com and choose from more than a dozen of the best books and courses on the market. Brooks Kubik's training advice has been building strength, transforming physiques, and changing lives for more than 25 years. If you prefer ebooks, look for Brooks Kubik's best-selling courses at Amazon's Kindle bookstore. Show your support for Physical Culture Radio by going to BrooksCubic.com right now.
In today's day and age, it's refreshing to find a company with values that match yours. And it's even more extraordinary when the products they make exceed your expectation in every way. That's what Michael's Naturopathic Programs has done for over 30 years. With more than 50 tried and truthful high-potency formulas, Michael's Naturopathic Programs give your body what it needs. No more guessing what herb or vitamin, amino acid, or mineral you need. With Michael's, it's all in one bottle. From cardiovascular support, to weight management, to nervous system support, to detox and cleansing, and more. Michael's Naturopathic Programs work. They have to. Michael himself has been giving it to his own family from the very start. You can find Michael's product at your local health food store or go to michaelshealth.com and get your tried and truthful formulation. That's michaelshealth.com.
New from the makers of Mass Pro Synthogen, Progenadrex is finally available to everyone. Refined for years in elite athletes, it's the absolute pinnacle of products specifically designed to accelerate drug-free muscle growth without hormones. Using Progenadrex as directed results in dramatic increases in muscle size, pumps, and recovery from heavy training. Won't disrupt endocrine function and no need to cycle off. Visit PredatorNutrition.com and Fusion Supplements for the absolute last word in non-hormonal anabolics. Progenadrex.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Welcome back to Science for Humans here on the Superhuman Radio Network with Dr. Jeff Galini. We're talking about vitamin A. It definitely deserves your attention. So, Dr. Jeff, are there ways to tell if you are deficient without blood work?
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few symptoms. You know, obviously one of them is not that everyone who has poor eyesight was from a vitamin A deficiency, but that is one of the things. But you got to look at the deficiencies that they can occur as either a primary or a secondary deficiency. A primary would be essentially not getting enough vitamin A consumed. And one of the things is even early weaning from breast milk can increase the risk of vitamin A deficiency. Thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are, wanting to get their kids off of the free milk.
Yeah, of course the mother has to get back to work and thank God for the pump, right? I mean, at least they can pump nowadays.
Man. Yeah. But anyhow, some of the secondary deficiencies are some of our bodies, because, this is a fat-soluble vitamin. Sometimes people have trouble absorbing, different types of lipids. They may have impaired bowel production from chronic exposure to oxygens such as, cigarette smoke, chronic alcoholism. So they have trouble absorbing that through the small intestines, which could also lead to a deficiency. But another thing is if you're deficient in zinc, a low deficiency in zinc can also impair the absorption of vitamin A and the whole metabolism of that vitamin A.
Well, and so something just came to mind when you were saying this, right? So we've talked about fat on previous shows, and we know that the country is fat phobic. And I have to believe, and this is actually something that was elucidated to me by Elisa Profumo, because we were talking about vitamin D deficiencies one day, and she said, a lot of people seem to be deficient in vitamin D even though they supplement. Maybe it's because they don't take it with a fatty meal. And something as simple as that that elicits a response by the bile production, so that the vitamin A is even absorbed in the first place. When you have a population that's, looking for everything to be fat-free, could that also be part of the reason that they're not absorbing their vitamin A?
Oh, absolutely. It's been shown that, people who are on extremely low-fat diets are going to have trouble absorbing.
Yeah. So now, obviously, the other way to find out if you're deficient in vitamin A is just to have this added to your blood work along with your 25-hydroxy. Make sure that your doctor tests for vitamin A, correct?
Correct. And most of the symptoms, they're really tough because they're common symptoms that could occur from a lot of things. Loss of appetite, dizziness, vomiting, loss of energy. So I wouldn't take those things as necessarily a vitamin A deficiency. Like Carl said, the best is just to add it to your lipid panel and find out. But here's another thing that was interesting, that vitamin A deficiency and HIV transmission.
Well, and okay, so you know why this is, right?
Correct.
Okay, this is a result of HIV is the immune system, like any other cell in the body, has a lifespan that's dictated by its ability to replicate over and over again. And what happens in HIV is the immune system goes into hyperdrive and basically wears itself out so that the replication of immune cells become poorer and poorer until they can't replicate anymore. So you basically burn your immune system out. What we talked about before about gene transcription and satellite cell differentiation arms the immune system with the ability to continue to replicate efficiently cells over and over again for a prolonged period of time.
Well, correct. And they're finding that, this whole, they call it MTCT, mother to child transmission, is really dependent upon vitamin A. Low vitamin A levels have been associated with the rapid HIV infection between mother to infant, which is not surprising considering vitamin A's major role in the development and differentiation of white blood cells, which are lower during HIV.
Yeah. What about toxicity? Can we tell if we're getting too much vitamin A easily without getting blood work done? Are there any telltale signs?
First of all, it is really hard to OD on vitamin A. So even though it is a fat soluble, it is harder to get rid of excess vitamin A than it would be to your water solubles like your B's or your C's. But in order to build up what they consider a toxic level, you're going to have to take a dose of about 25,000 IUs per 2 pounds of body weight.
Wow.
You're going to need to take that for a period of 6 to 15 months. So I don't know, depends on your body weight. You're taking, 1 million IUs. So
right.
It's really hard to,
OD on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that's kind of the least of most people's worry. I don't think anyone would take a bottle a day for 6 to 15 months.
No. And remember, we talk about satellite cell differentiation. Sally Fallon from the Weston A. Price Foundation came on and talked about how Dr. Weston A. Price did a research paper that looked at vitamin A levels of expecting mothers and the homogeneity of babies as they look. It was Francis Pottinger who looked at this in cats. Cats that had high vitamin A levels had litters where each kitten looked like a carbon copy of the other. And cats that had low vitamin A levels had kittens where every one of them looked different and motley looking. And so Weston A. Price picked up on this and looked at vitamin A levels in expecting mothers and found out that mothers who had higher levels of vitamin A had more symmetrical, more beautiful babies. Remember, a baby is nothing more than a platoon of stem cells differentiating all at one time. So mothers need vitamin A if you're planning to have babies.
Absolutely. And even back, in history, 1860, a psychologist by the name of Francis Mangadi was essentially the one that first discovered vitamin D. But he had observed in dogs that were deprived of certain nutritional values that contain D that they developed corneal ulcers and had a high mortality rate. So I know we're talking about animals to humans, but again, it's very, very important, as you said, in the natural production of the growth of a baby.
Now, you said D just now. You meant A, right?
I'm sorry, A.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
thinking
No,
about
that's
the nice commercial I heard during that break.
You know,
Primal D. I'm talking about A. But, a few things, especially around the world, that approximately 1/3 of children under the age of 5 are deficient, and it's estimated that it claims the lives of 670,000 children under the age of 5. And approximately 250,000 to 500,000 children in these developing third world countries become blind. So there is a problem out there, especially in the countries that don't have the access to supplementation or the same type of foods that we have.
And those of you out there looking to build muscle, we talk about satellite cell differentiation, creating new myocytes, new muscle fibers. Well, read into that you need vitamin A for that to happen as well.
Absolutely. So overall, it's a good vitamin to add to your regimen. You can't really take too much of it. But like Carl said, between that 5,000 to 10,000 IUs per day, especially if you're an athlete, is going to help with that oxygenation from those red blood cells.
And there you have it, Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini. Dr. Jeff, thanks so much for being on today, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Take care.